Today we're going to talk about, as promised, our Busch Gardens experience. The last video you guys saw was us at the Busch Gardens Tampa Bay Food and Wine Festival. And so we wanted to do a separate video because that vlog was getting really long. We wanted to do a separate video talking about our experience and our thoughts, our feelings. Would we do it again? So we're going to talk first about the food and wine experience on its own. And then we're going to go into our experience at Busch Gardens. You should know we are tainted by Disney. We are Disney annual pass holders, and so we compare everything to
that standard.
So we're looking at this through that kind of lens. If you've never been to Disney and you've only ever been to Busch Gardens, then maybe you're gonna think that we're being a little unfair, but we're just comparing this to our previous experience at other theme parks. So
Disney theme parks.
Yes,
specifically
Disney.
Yeah, not amusement parks. We're leaving that out of it.
Right, because there is a difference between Disney World and Universal Studios and Busch Gardens, because Busch Gardens is not so much a theme park as it is an amusement park. It reminds me of Animal Kingdom a little bit because it has the animal experiences and encounters. They've got a lot of animal encounters. You can do like a sloth encounter.
Do you want to do that at the end?
Or a kangaroo encounter, but they also have like the roller coasters and everything. So it reminds me of that a little bit, but it's a completely different experience. So anyway, we're gonna start by talking about our food and wine experience, which is why we decided to go to Busch Gardens in the first place. We knew that the food and wine at Busch Gardens was going to end on April 25th. It only runs on weekends, so it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And it's in the spring.
Which is weird.
Well, it's just different for us.
Yes.
We're used to it being in the winter.
Yes.
Or fall.
The Disney Food and Wine at Epcot runs through like the fall time. So this was different for us, and I don't even know how we figured this out because we don't even look at ads for Busch Gardens. We've never been before. So I'm not even sure how we got to this point that we were like, hey, let's go there.
Let's do that.
But somehow we saw an ad for Busch Gardens Food and Wine, decided to go, and they had these lanyards.
She found a special
for purchase. So you can buy, like basically prepay for your food before you get there. I did the math. You kind of get a discount if you buy a punch card instead of paying cash at every booth. So we did that. We bought 2 punch cards and we tried a bunch of different food items. So we're gonna kind of talk a little bit more about that. You've got some notes, don't you?
Yeah, I talked about our favorite bite is one of the top things that I've got
What
listed.
was your favorite bite?
Mine was the espresso rubbed beef tenderloin.
That was a good bite.
It was hand cut. I felt sorry for the gal who was there serving because she was running the cash register, and then she'd run into the booth and she would prepare the order for the person, and then she'd run back to the booth, the cash
there
register.
was one person running the whole booth. She would take your order, you would pay her, and then she would prepare the food. So it was like that for the whole festival. It felt like they were severely understaffed. I felt
bad for some of the staff members because you could tell they were really stressed. But she had a smile on her face, and she was very knowledgeable about her job and got right to work and hand cut the tenderloin, and I think it was on mashed potatoes.
Yes, and honestly, I don't like mashed potatoes. I thought they were good. I even said that out loud to her, and she was like, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
But they were not bad potatoes. I would eat them again.
But the tenderloin was well cooked. It wasn't overcooked. It wasn't dry. We had plastic utensils that we were eating with, and you were able to.
It was really tender,
cut it easily.
And there wasn't a sauce on it, if I remember correctly, and it didn't need one. And it was a really good portion size.
It wasn't too salty. It wasn't too seasoned. It was the best bite I had. What about you? What was your best bite?
I think my best bite, my favorite bite, the bite that I keep thinking about was the spicy chicken po' boy sandwich that we got from the Nola Eats booth. That was really good.
Okay.
A little sweet with the, there was a lot of jam on it, but it was really good chicken sandwich and another big portion size.
What was your worst bite?
The Brussels sprouts was my worst bite.
Mine too.
They just weren't good.
They didn't look good. They didn't taste good.
You can do Brussels sprouts really well, and it's easy, I guess, to do them really poorly, but these were just really bad.
It brought back memories for me. When I was a kid, we used to get these boil in a bag. They were, I think, Jolly Green Giant vegetables. and it was, you know, broccoli, and it was soggy and drowned it in plastic cheese, and Brussels sprouts, and they were small and soft and
it was called
yucky.
Roasted Brussels sprouts, and they weren't. There's no way they were roasted. They looked like they were boiled or steamed.
Yeah. Yesterday.
Yeah. The spicy nuts on top were very good.
Yeah.
And the Brussels sprouts themselves would have been inedible without the nuts and the sauce. So it was bad. I regret getting that.
Favorite drink? What was your best drink?
See, there were a bunch of really good drinks. The first drink I got was the frozen margarita, and that one...
What flavor was it? Wasn't it
watermelon.
It was a watermelon
It was
frozen?
a frozen watermelon margarita, and I love watermelon margaritas. If I'm gonna have a margarita, I want a flavored margarita, and that one was really good.
Yeah, I think lime is a flavored margarita.
That's just like a normal margarita, though. It's
Yeah, but it's still a flavor.
yeah, but it's margarita flavor. I want a fruit flavored, alternative fruit flavored. I want lime and something else.
Okay.
Anyway, it was really smooth. My gripe about most frozen margaritas is that they're like chunky with ice, and this one was really smooth. It was really good. I've had a really good frozen blackberry margarita at Universal Studios City
that's
Walk.
an excellent one.
And that one's really good, but this is maybe my second favorite alternative fruit flavored margarita
Wow.
of all time. It was really good.
That's a nice compliment.
And the other favorite drink was probably the vanilla spiced old fashioned.
That was my favorite drink.
It was really strong.
It was really strong, but it was,
strong.
you could taste every element in it.
It was a spiced vanilla old fashioned.
Yeah.
It
The old
was
fashioned
really
was
good.
really good. The vanilla was not overpowering. The spice in it was like a wintry spice.
Yeah, it wasn't overpowering like, ooh, I can't eat this. It was really well balanced. It was a really well balanced cocktail.
And that one was in a big, like, punch bowl type glass.
Their drinks were made in batches, so they weren't handcrafted at the time. They were probably made by a person, like
not
that
from
morning or the day before. But you know, they were not handcrafted, you know, for each person that ordered.
So I knew that if I went back, which I did, I was going to get the same drink because you could tell it was in this, you know, big glass
vat.
And then they would just, you know, serve it into their little cup over ice. And I really liked that. There were several good drinks, but that was probably my favorite. Did you have a worst drink?
The lemon drop.
For me, it was the Tigress tea. Wasn't that the one that was so vanilla?
No, that was the lemon drop.
Oh, it was.
The lemon drop was not, gosh, what was that called? The Lion's Fury lemon drop or something. It was not a lemon drop. There was no lemon in it at all.
It was overpowering
vanilla. It tasted like, you know what it tasted like? Vanilla coffee syrup. You know the coffee syrup that you go to Starbucks and they put in your coffee? That's what it tasted like. It was all vanilla.
I couldn't drink it.
I had enough to drink at that point that I didn't really care what it tasted like. I knew it was bad, but I drank it anyway. But you poured some water in it, which helped it a little. But I had to stop thinking this should be a lemon drop because it didn't taste anything like lemon. There was no lemon in it at all.
It was
It just felt like it.
And it wasn't a vanilla drop, it was a vanilla bomb.
It felt like they had made a huge mistake when they were making the drink. So yeah, that was very disappointing.
What was the best surprise that you had about the Food and Wine area or
I really enjoyed that they had tables set up for people to sit at. And like they were in the shade for some of the day, if not all of the day.
They were socially distant from each other, but there was anywhere from 3 to 6 chairs available for every table, and there were lots of tables.
They were well prepared for people to come to the food festival and sit down and eat.
The thing I liked about it was the food festival was kind of in one area. So you didn't have to, you know, and I know that when we go to Disney, that's nice because, you know, it's scattered all around the park. But for us, it was really convenient because it was in one area.
And we didn't have to deal with any, like, roller coaster queues,
you know,
interfering with queues.
There were a lot of
pinch
points in their park.
Yes, but we didn't have to deal with
not at the food festival
queues
area.
of people. You know, kind of like, because you know how at Disney they can kind of get really long. I'm thinking specifically about Flight of Passage.
Yeah.
If that had happened at Busch Gardens, it would have been really uncomfortable because it was kind of close quarters in some of those areas, but we didn't have to deal with that. The people who were in the area for the Food and Wine Festival were there for the Food and Wine Festival. So it was really well planned, I think.
And we met some nice people that we got to talk with because they were there for the Food and Wine Festival. What was kind of the worst surprise that you had?
No paper map. I was going expecting to be able to have like a paper map that I could hold in my hands, that I can navigate around the park and I can see where things are.
Or an interactive map on your phone.
Yeah.
I don't like that about Disney because it eats your phone battery, but I do like
it's functional,
being able to see where I am on the map.
They had an app and they had a map on the app, but it's not interactive like the Disney one, and it's not detailed or to scale like the Disney one is. It was really hard to figure out where we were in the park. So a lot of the day, especially in the morning, before we decided we're just gonna hang out here in the festival area, we were like, hey, let's walk around the park and try to, get a feel for the place. But it was so hard to get a feel for the place because we didn't have a map to navigate by. So that was my worst surprise.
For me, it was the bag policy. I think at Disney, I've been spoiled. Now there's the D word again, but I think at Disney I'm spoiled because most every ride, I'm sure there's one, you can just take your bag on and stuff it under something, or they've got stuff, like I think it is Flight of Passage, they have something on the wall behind you and you put your bag in that. This had a more universal feel to it, and bags were not allowed. Anything outside of your pockets were not allowed, and you had to put it in a locker. So they did have lockers for the day that you could rent up at the front of the park, but I thought it was a really exorbitant price.
$25 for a jumbo locker for the whole day. They did have lockers at each ride, and I don't know if they were pay to rent lockers or if they were just like, use this while you're in the queue kind of locker. I don't want to have to put my bag away. It's just an extra step for me, and I don't want to take that extra step because I'm lazy. I think maybe that just has more to do with the type of rides themselves, but we're getting out of the Food and Wine experience here.
So what would you say about the Food and Wine was kind of disappointing to you?
They didn't open on time. So with our experience, we got to the park about like 10:30 or 11, I think, and the food festival actually was supposed to begin. Everything that we saw on the internet when we got there, all the signs said food festival begins at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, and on the booths it would say opens at noon or opens at 12. There was one, I think, where you got your first margarita. There was a sign in the window and you could see employee in there getting ready, and it said opens at noon, but many did not.
Most of the booths, well, I can't even say that. Some of the booths opened around 12:30-ish. And then there were still like half of the booths weren't open yet. Some more opened around 3, a few more opened around 5 or 6, and there were some booths that didn't open at all that whole day. So we were there on a Friday. Maybe that's our fault, that they didn't open, but nowhere does it say on the app, on the digital festival guide, it doesn't say anywhere like in the booth window, this booth won't open today, we'll open at this time. It was just sort of like a guess, kind of, who's gonna open and when they're gonna open. And
you just had to keep going back. There were
booths that kept turning people away because they hadn't had a food delivery yet, or they were having trouble with their point of sale system. So it was just kind of weird.
It was almost like, it was disorganized. It was almost like this was the first day, and so we're just not ready yet.
Yeah, it was like they were totally unprepared.
My disappointing factor was the shortage of staff. So many booths had one person, and they were not like small tight booths, they were large booths. Like the booth where I got the tenderloin, it was a large booth, and they had 2 outside cash register points, and then inside there was 3 separate workstations. And I know that when we've gone to other booths at festivals to eat, usually they give you you do your point of sale and they give you the receipt, and then you hand it to somebody who's typically outside of the booth, and then they call out what your order is, and then the people inside the booth prepare it, and you just so the line just kind of keeps moving along. And when you get to the end, they're putting your stuff out on the counter for you. And so, you know, like I said, many of these booths just had one person. The booth where I got the spiced vanilla old fashioned had one person. The espresso booth had one person. The booth where I got several of the other beverages only had one person. And so, you know, you kind of had to be very patient, and the lines could be really long.
The wait was long, and they even got to the point where they would close the queue for the booth just because there were too many people in the booth, or in the queue for the booth, and the person working in the booth couldn't keep up. So like you might walk up to a booth and there's like a line of people there and you can't even get in line because there are so many people there, and they've actually closed the queue temporarily. So it was just, yeah, that was strange.
The attitude of most of the staff for me was very, very pleasant. They did
Most of the staff.
They did not act like they were burdened by having to do, you know, all those multiple tasks. Many of them had a smile, you know, in the part of their face that you could see. And so they were pleasant to interact with and tried to give us directions when we needed it. So I enjoyed interacting with the staff there.
I did too. They seemed to be, most of them seemed to be pretty happy to be there, happy that we were there, glad to have a job right now, you know, so that was really nice.
There were a few that you could tell they were
didn't want to be there.
Didn't want to be there, and we were in their way. They had better things to do somewhere else. And if they could just pick up their paycheck, they'd be ready to go. There were things that we wanted to order that we were not able to order, and that was disappointing to me.
Some of the menus for the booths were inaccurate. Like there was a beer listed for the Nola Eats booth that they didn't even have a tap. And so that was kind of strange. So we couldn't even find that beer
And
anywhere.
that's on the internet. I would think you can update that. You know, they didn't even realize, and that was the place where you got your watermelon margarita. They had beers listed on theirs that they didn't have any idea, you know, where that beer was. And I know it was food and wine. I was surprised that they didn't have much wine. It was mostly mixed drinks. They had
mostly mixed drinks.
Few beer options. They had
I think they had 5 beer options that were available. They had a bunch of different food items that you could choose from, and most of the food items were available, but there were very few wine options, and the one booth that only sold wine was closed. The one booth that was like Tampa Crafts on Tap or something, it was like a Tampa craft beer booth, never opened that day. Which was really disappointing.
And I realized it's not Oktoberfest, so it wasn't beer, so I can't, you know, really fault that the beer options weren't there. But it was a food and wine festival, and there was not much wine. Lots of mixed drinks, and one entire booth was dedicated to shots of, wasn't it different bourbons and tequilas?
I think it was bourbon and tequila.
So that was weird for me. And then I wanted to try the fried chicken and biscuit, and we couldn't get that. And then there was the bison slider. I wanted to try that, and that wasn't available. And then they had like a seasoned brisket. That wasn't available. The espresso martini, we wanted to try that, and that booth never opened.
We went through the festival guide and we wrote down for each booth the things that we wanted to try. And this is why I love the Epcot Food and Wine Festival, or the Epcot festivals, because they usually have the printed festival guide.
And it's a little book.
And you can check off the things you want to try. And
yeah,
with Epcot, and again, I'm comparing this to Disney because to me, Disney is a gold standard. When you go to Epcot, you know every booth is going to be open and every booth is going to have every item in the food guide. So like I've never had an experience where I went to a booth and they were like, no, we don't actually have that. We don't even have a tap that we can serve beer, so I don't know what you're asking for. So for me, it was really disappointing that the festival guide was inaccurate because we had gone through and written down what we wanted to try, and so we walked up to the booth with an idea of what we wanted, and they would turn us away telling us we don't even have that. So it was kind of disappointing.
Weird.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, sort of weird. Yeah, let's talk about what made it a really good value, or what we think made it a good value. Something we wish Disney would
I
adopt.
wish Disney would do this lanyard thing and like allow you to buy a certain number of punches. Because you could buy, I think it was 5, 8, and 12. And if you were a season pass holder, you can buy a 15 punch lanyard for the price of a 12 punch lanyard. We bought the 12 just because I thought we're going for the whole day. We're gonna try all kinds of food.
And I know it's supposed to be mostly tapas, so it's going to be
It's a sampler.
small.
It's a sampler food and wine festival. It's not full servings. Some of the servings were actually pretty good servings. Like the tamale was a normal sized tamale, but it was a sampler
And I think
lanyard.
the tostada was the shrimp.
Yes.
Tostada was a normal size
And
tostada.
the espresso rub tenderloin that you got was also pretty good size. But the drinks were little. But still, like the prices on them on the menu at the booth, the spiced vanilla old fashioned was $12.
If you bought it. But
if you paid cash for
Yeah.
it. If you got the punch card, I did the math and I think it came out to like $5.41 per item if you bought the 12 punch card. And so I thought this was a really good deal, and I
did too.
really wish Disney would adopt that.
too. And it made it faster because, you know, you'd go up, they'd see that you had your lanyard on, and you'd tell them what you wanted, and then they would scan the back of your lanyard and do the 2 punches, and they didn't have to, like, get your credit card.
There's no
or-
receipt, and there's no, like, I'm going to swipe my card or scan my card, or we don't have internet connection. It wasn't, it was not difficult at all.
It made it really expedited
Yes.
getting through the cash register line. That made it simple for them, and it made it simple for us because they didn't have to, you know, worry about somebody trying to give them cash. Now, I did see people that did use their credit card that didn't have lanyard, and you could tell it really slowed things down. Now, they were able to purchase other options or different sizes for drinks in particular. When I got that strawberry chocolate shake, the lady in front of me had gotten several things for her kids, and they were full size.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
even know that they sold full-size ones. Now let's get into our experience at the park itself.
Okay.
When we were dropped off by the Uber, because we did take an Uber from the embassy, because we knew we were going to have some drinks, and I didn't really want to pay to park at Busch Gardens. You can prepay for parking if you want to buy your parking pass online before, but I thought we're going to spend the night in Tampa because we're not going to drink and eat all day long and then try to drive home. So we parked at the Embassy Suites, which is like just a couple miles north of the park, and then we took an Uber to the park, and we were dropped off. We walked through, you know, the queue, and then they do the temperature check, and those people were really nice. And then you kind of walk into this open area, and immediately you're there. Like, this is where they do the bag check, and then you scan your ticket. And I was able to print our tickets online. We didn't have to stop at the will call window at all. I bought them online, and then I printed them here at home.
And it said all over, you know, bring this with you to the park.
So we didn't have to pick anything up. We did pick up the lanyards at the welcome booth later.
And when we checked in, the gal that was scanning us, she was pulling those papers apart, and she said, "This one you're going to take to the festival booth, and she'll get you your lanyard there." And she was right, and she pointed us in the correct direction.
Yep.
But I was so glad that we Ubered there and back. The Uber driver told us, he said, "You're here on a good day." He said, "Last Friday, the line to get into park was
All the way down the street. He said it was wild.
And he said that, you know, this is really a good way to do it, because he said, "I'm basically going to take you right to the temperature check area, and you guys are going to be able to get out of the car, and all those other people will either have to walk or tram." It's in downtown area of Tampa. I mean, they've done a really
It's in Temple Terrace. It's right there by USF. So it's
good
not
job of space utilization, I thought.
Yeah. The park is very well designed, very well planned out, because they've really packed a lot of roller coasters and really fun activities and rides and animal exhibits all in one city
Small
block.
area, yeah.
It was really cool.
I was shocked, surprised maybe is a better word, at the pinch points. There are so many pinch points because the queues, you know, are now stretched out because of the social distancing. So there's traffic trying to go each way, and then there's queues for a ride, and there was a lot of cross traffic.
This was not a COVID-friendly park at all. I kind of felt like there were so many people not wearing masks at all, or not wearing it properly and using it as a chin strap, or with their nose hanging out. And at Disney, again, at Disney, there are cast members that are like designated to walk around the park and say, "Hey, put your mask back on.
Please wear your mask."
And at Busch Gardens, they would be having full conversations with park employees, and the park employee wouldn't say anything about them not wearing a mask at all. It was just like it was culture shock for me. It was so weird that I kind of felt strange thinking, hey,
aren't we supposed to wear a mask?
Yeah, they're like, I got a survey from Busch Gardens, and I keep seeing ads now that we've been on, like when I watch a YouTube video, it's always Busch Gardens now, and it's all about how your safety is so important to us. I'm like, I don't really think that that's true. It feels like false advertising just because they're not actually enforcing their rules. And there were people, like we were in the queue for the train, and there was this family behind us, and there was this guy in this family behind us that was so close to us, because we are social distancing from the family in front of us. I can't do anything about the guy behind me, except maybe elbow him in the gut, because he's literally so close to us that I turned and like nudged him.
Yeah, well, he kept bumping into me because I had a backpack on. You know, and the backpack sticks out, what, 6-8 inches?
Depending on how much stuff you've got in it.
And he's kept bumping into
He's too close for pre-COVID measures. He's way too close for COVID measures. Like, back off. And if you're doing that kind of stuff, I am gonna ask you to back off, just because it's really rude. You're standing way too close to me. If you can hear my conversation.
We had the nicest family in front of us.
Yeah.
They had 4 kids. 4 kids. The 2 girls looked like and were dressed like twins.
I think they were twins.
I think the 2 older boys were maybe a year, 2 years apart.
Yeah.
Because you could see a slight difference in height and size. And those kids
were climbing all over Dad and having such a good time.
And so well behaved. Mom didn't have to get after one of them.
No, Mom was kind of indifferent.
Well, she would tell them, you know, get over here or sit down or whatever, and they would do what she told them to do.
But Dad was having a good time. He would sit down in the stroller, and he'd have one on his lap and one on his neck.
One of those big plastic 2-person strollers, and he would sit in that stroller, and then those kids just treated him like a jungle gym. They were climbing all over him.
And you could tell he loved it, and I just thought that was refreshing and nice. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were in that queue for a while.
Yes.
I think, because like they only had the one train running.
The train has 2 stops, and we got on at the first stop, and it's a real short ride to
the Nairobi station. So we were in the queue at the Nairobi station, and that's the longer leg to go back, or at least it looks like on the map. I don't even know if that's to scale, but we were waiting for the train to come back, and they're seating people every other row on the train. So they're not filling the train completely, it's every other row. And on that train, we actually got the first row on the train, which was really cool because we got to see like the actual
engine.
Yeah,
that was really special. I was surprised we were able to get on that train. The train actually
I think
held
the last family to get on.
More people than what I thought.
Yeah, it is a big train, and they can load a lot of people on it, especially when they're loading every train.
I think they only had 1 train running that day.
I think so too, because we had to wait, I think it was 45 minutes, almost an hour for that train to come back to get us. Anyway, I can't imagine, I want to talk a little bit about park crowds. I can't imagine how full Busch Gardens is when they're not at limited capacity.
Yeah.
I don't know what capacity they're running at. They have advertised it's limited capacity. I can't imagine going to that park under full capacity.
Right.
Because the queue for the rides, like those queues were at 45 minutes to 70 minutes.
Right.
I can't imagine doing that. Yeah, it felt really full for
it felt
how
like a lot
it
of
is.
people there.
Yeah. Okay, we've had a couple. I'm looking at the questions from our last video, because we're actually filming this on Saturday. This is going to go up tomorrow. This is our first day that we've had the opportunity to sit down and film together. But I'm looking at, which is nice because we've had some opportunity for some questions to come in. Kelly Farmer said, thanks for showing us Busch Gardens. Would love to hear in your next video if you'd go back for rides and the rest of the park based on your experience. We've had several of those similar questions. You wouldn't go back, right?
I don't think I would. I think the value was okay. I'm tainted because I grew up a long time ago and amusement parks were much different. You can't just ride rides anymore. If I went back and I was going to ride rides, I would know ahead of time that I'm, going to buy every food and drink beverage item in the park, that I'm not going to carry any bag because I don't want to mess with the locker. So I would go, just for that purpose to ride rides. If our experience of what we saw with how backed up and long those queues were, I just don't think that it's a good value. I love a good thrill ride, but I don't want to go and spend, an hour standing in a line to ride a ride that's going to last 72 seconds. So that's how I'm spoiled.
I've had some time to think about this. We went specifically for the Food and Wine Festival. That's why we went. We didn't go wanting to ride every single thrill ride. I kind of wanted to ride one
I wanted to ride a couple. I thought, it is a pandemic and we're going to be there before it opens and it's going to be on a Friday. So maybe we'll get to ride a couple. And then we got there and I thought, well, let's go back to plan A because plan B is not going to work.
Yeah. But I've had some time to think about the conditions under which I would go back, because I would go back under very specific conditions. I would go back with a friend who wants to ride roller coasters. I would buy the ticket that's like dine all day kind of ticket, so you get free food when you pass through like a normal food queue. This has nothing to do with the food festival. This is totally separate. So it's like free cheeseburgers every time you go through the line. I would buy that ticket. I would buy the quick queue pass for the whole day, which is basically like a fast pass kind of thing. You get to the front of the line. I would go when the quick queue is cheapest. I would go with a friend who wants to ride roller coasters. I would not take a bag. I would not take my vlog camera. I would take my phone. I would not be on my phone, and I would just ride roller coasters all day long, and I would go home absolutely exhausted.
Yep. That would be the way to do it.
But that's the only way that I would do it.
Yep.
I would not go back for the Food and Wine Festival.
You wouldn't?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I had a great time at the Busch Gardens Food and Wine Festival. I thought the people we met at the park were really nice. Some of the team members, park employees, I keep wanting to say cast members, were nice. But I was not impressed enough with their food options, and the conditions of the food festival were kind of underwhelming and culture shocking and a little, a little too much for me. Yeah. So since we have Disney annual passes and we go to the Disney festivals all the time, I am used to that. So I would go back to, oh my God, we've got phones ringing and toilets flushing.
Yeah. So would you go back?
Not for the Food and Wine Festival. I would go back to Busch Gardens if I'm only gonna ride roller coasters. But if I'm gonna do a food festival, I'm gonna go to Epcot for that.
I might go back to the Food and Wine Festival at Busch Gardens under the right circumstances. And I think you've outlined perfectly the circumstances to go for the amusement park. I would do it under those circumstances as well. I really wasn't surprised because my expectations for their food and wine was lower. I really liked that lanyard.
That was my favorite part of the whole festival, was the punch card lanyard. It made buying things or paying for things so much easier. So that's, if I could ask Disney to do one thing, that's what I would ask them to do.
I think for me, it has to do with setting my thoughts and my expectations. And, walking around the park, one of the things I noticed is it is not like Disney in that things don't look clean, they don't look freshly painted. You see stuff that you can tell has got a lot of sun damage, paint that wasn't sharp and bright. So
it wasn't clearly marked either.
Yeah.
Navigating the park was difficult, not only because of the missing map, but because the signs pointing different directions to get to things weren't clear.
So I think if you have your expectations set and you know what it's going to be like, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. But if you're thinking it's going to be a theme park to Disney standards, then you will be disappointed.
If you're going for roller coasters, I think you're going to have a really good time. Just don't take a bag. Buy everything there.
Yep. Plan ahead.
Prepare for that. Prepare to buy water and food and everything there. Don't take a camera. Just don't do it. If you're going for animal experiences and like encounters, plan for those and do them in the morning. Do them in the morning. You'll have to, I think you can do like a sloth experience, which is really cool. Buy that in advance online and plan to do it in the morning.
But they had birds and kangaroos and lots of different experiences, and we saw those cute little baby ducks and the turtles. There were so many neat animal experiences. The flamingos, what do they call the flamingos when they're like running and there's a group of them?
A flamboyance of flamingos.
And we kept trying to catch them.
Flapping like this.
And they were so pretty.
Beautiful. They like under their wings, it's like black. Oh, so beautiful. And she was laughing at them, and I thought that's why they call them a flamboyance of flamingos, because they run around squawking, flapping their wings, and every time I would turn the camera on, they'd stop.
They'd stop.
So anyway.
But we really enjoyed the day. We had a great day.
We did have a great day. I don't regret going.
Nope.
But I don't think I would do it again. I'm not in a rush to do it again.
No, there's a lot of other things on my to-do list before I go back.
So I think that's gonna be it for our Busch Gardens review. Yep. We are both wearing rash guards right now. So a video I've been thinking about doing is like how we stay cool in Disney theme parks.
Yeah.
How we keep from getting sunburned in Disney theme parks. If that's something you would be interested in, leave a comment, let us know, because that's something that I feel like we have a little bit of experience with. So we've got a few tips and tricks that maybe we could share. But I think that's gonna be it for today's video. Thank you guys for being so kind and letting us ramble on for a while.
And thanks for the questions and the comments.
Yes.
That helped us.
Always helpful. It gives us a little bit of guidance. So you guys are gonna see us in another video really soon.